Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Stevens, and I want to talk to you about the documented essay. You need to write a documented essay in this course, English 102, and I'm sure that many of you have probably never done this before. Now, a few words about the context for this assignment. Documentation, as you know, means that when you are using outside sources in your writing, you need to document them. And that simply means to say what the source is, meaning you mention it in your text, the text of your paper, and then you give information about where that source came from. And that's called documentation. Now, we've been working on that in English 102, primarily in Workshop 5. And so in a sense, the documented essay is a culminating assignment or a capstone assignment, if you will, for Workshop 5 for that reason, because you are drawing upon the skills that you developed, worked on, and so on in those exercises in Workshop 5. So, in a research paper, you need to use outside sources to support what you are saying, to show what you found when you did your research. After all, research is just a matter of going out and finding information about something in order to answer a question about a particular topic. All right, so you need to use these outside sources that you use to find your information. They need to be then used in the text of your paper. Well, what you are doing then is you are using documented outside sources. The documented essay then, okay, Howard, excuse me a minute, but for some reason I'm not getting my pen to work. Hang on. All right, sorry about that. I think I've got my pen to work now. We're talking about the documented essay. Okay, there we go. So the documented essay is sort of like a short version of a research paper. It's an essay or a paper in which you are referring to outside sources as a way of developing what you are saying about whatever the topic is. Obviously not as long as a research paper and not as ambitious in its purpose. The essay, like any essay, has a thesis or a main point that you're trying to make about the topic. It has development, all right? You're probably familiar with the 5-paragraph essay, which uses 5 paragraphs to develop the topic. Well, in a documented essay, all you are doing is including the use of outside sources when you develop your topic, okay? So let's see if we can't go through a sample documented essay as a way of explaining what I'm talking about here. First of all, note that this is not the essay itself, all right? This is just my intro, all right, to the sample essay. And this essay, by the way, is posted in English 102 in the assignments folder for the documented essay assignment, all right? So this is a paper written by a student. Now I have adapted the paper for use as a sample, right, as an example, and I've changed the name of the student to protect her privacy, all right? But this sample should help you write your own documented essay. Okay, now, we've had a lesson in they say, I say. So the essay here will show you how you might use they say, I say. The subject and the main point in the essay are those of the writer, not of the sources themselves, all right? You, the writer, when you write your essay, you have a point that you want to make about your subject, all right? And we'll see how that works in the sample, okay? The main point is the writer's, but the other information, okay, the other ideas are included, as I say, as part of the development, and they include the they say part of the essay. Remember that what they say, first of all, is what we call the conversation about the topic. All right, whatever the conversation is, that's what people in general are saying about the topic. Now, what they say does not necessarily have to be different from what you say. They say could support, illustrate, and so on, exemplify, and otherwise help you develop your topic. It could agree with you. It doesn't necessarily have to be different. All right. Note that they, in this case, in an essay, are not only people in general, but are also the specific people used in the sample. And it just happens to be that their names are Chen and Harris. And note that when Chen and Harris are cited in the text, all right, note that when they are cited, we don't use a long introductory phrase such as in the book written by Chen titled Early Childhood Health, etc., etc. This is a common problem. Use author's name only. You practiced this in workshop 5. Okay, we practiced remember using a signal phrase plus the author's name plus the date, and that's all you use. So take note of these things. Take note of what I say here in the introduction. All right. I want to get into the example itself, show you how it looks. First of all, we use APA manuscript style, right? And that includes title page. You've seen this before. Title page includes the title, includes your name, the course English 102. Oh, it should also have, should have added this, folks. It should also have the institution, right? Coppin State U, right? Okay. Needs to have the date. You may include the professor's name. That's optional. And by the way, while we're on the subject of title pages, there is a lot of flexibility in APA manuscript style about what goes on a title page, but it is always centered vertically, right? Okay, so it's vertical centering. Vertical centering, and of course, it must include a title, your name, and a date. There is a certain amount of flexibility with the other stuff that goes on a title page. So I'm not going to be particularly strict on that. As long as you have a title page and it's centered and includes the title and your name and the date. All right. Introduction of the topic. During the developmental stages in life, children learn many things. Okay, so we've got something, the essay has something to do with the topic of childhood development, right, and how children learn. A question that faces not only parents but researchers as well is, what are these influences? We are entering the conversation, right? The they say, I say, right? And how is it doing that? By introducing a topic that people in general are concerned about. Okay? This is not just Kiana Trusty off on her own. She's got a bee in her bonnet about something about developmental stages, so she wants to say something about it. No, this is a topic, an issue, if you will, that people in general are concerned about. So we name some of those people, parents and teachers. And we also name researchers. Got it? We are entering the conversation. So already in the second sentence, this essay is a they say, I say essay. Now, you will also notice some elements here that are important in a research paper. We not only have a topic that we're writing about in a research paper, but we also have research questions. So we have a question here as well. This could be a research question. It's not a research paper, but it certainly could be the basis of a research paper, right? How do children learn, right? How do the influences determine the kind of adult one, that is, an individual becomes, and so on. So, introduction. We've got an introduction here. What does it do? It enters the conversation. Number one, it identifies a focus by means of a question that we're going to focus on, right? And then we've got some development. We've got development of the topic to be addressed, specific topic. Okay? Right, a specific focus. All right. And then we get into it. Now, we've got a specific they say, right? Child psychologists agree. All right? So we're bringing in a group of people, a they, if you will, and then what do? We have a documented source. This is what makes it a documented essay, right? You're getting the point now, aren't you, right? It's a documented essay because it uses outside source, in this case, Chen. Now, we don't know who this Chen is. How do we find out? Well, we find out who this Chen is by going to the list of references, right? We don't need to give all of this information here in the text of the paper because it's listed at the end. So I'm reading along, I say, Chen, who is this Chen? Oh, well, he's a guy who wrote something called Early Childhood Health, etc. All right, and it's published in Chicago, Illinois by ProQuest Information and Learning. Looks like a book on early childhood development. Okay, so fine, we've got that. All we need up here is Chen. And then we've got a reference to what Chen says. He states that the experiences of early childhood play an important role in the formation of adulthood. Notice we named the author. That's all we need. Chen states this whole thing here is a signal phrase. Okay, it could be a different. Remember, there is no one specific signal phrase that you could use. Another possibility, right? Another signal phrase. And you'll recognize this one because we've used it in class. Another signal phrase could be according to. According to Chen, right? But you get the idea. We introduce what it is that Chen is saying on the subject. So, and then we go on. There are many studies that link family backgrounds okay, and so on, to one's status as adults, status in adulthood. Okay, so we're looking at the way in which childhood development influences the kind of adult a person becomes. All right, notice how the essay keeps focused on that, right? Focus on the topic. Don't stray from the topic. The topic is childhood development, influence of childhood development on adulthood, and so on. So those terms, development, childhood, adulthood, status in adulthood, and so on, those are the terms that are providing coherence. So when we bring in a source like Chen, we want to make sure that it is related to the specific focus of our essay so that the essay remains coherent. And so we continue. We don't need to look at everything that this essay says. The point that I want to make here is that the writer is using outside sources, in this case Chen, to develop her point. Okay, to develop her topic. That's what makes it a documented essay. If we take Chen and Harris out of the essay, then it's no longer a documented essay, it's just a personal essay, right? Okay, but we bring in the outside sources. Now we've got another source, Harris. So we continue with our development. Parental influence on development is another subject of research. More, they say, right? You see how it works? Researchers have done research on this topic. All right, so good. You've done research on the topic, and that research and what that research has produced, that's part of the conversation. Okay, common sense suggests that parents would have the most influence on development. So I was surprised, okay? I hear the writer, part of the conversation, right? I was surprised to learn this is not necessarily the case. Studies of parental influence that question the extent of the influence, and then we get down to specifics. We've got a general statement, and then we have a specific statement, right? So we move from the general to the specific. Harris studied the influence of peer groups and so on. Now, again, we don't need to go into detail about what Harris is saying about the influence of peer groups and parents and so on. The point here again is we are bringing the topic into the conversation, or the author is bringing what she has to say into the conversation by bringing in what other people have to say, and she is documenting specific outside sources, and the use of those outside sources is what makes this a documented essay. All right, let's look at the way this essay concludes. You've gotten the point by now that the essay is bringing this topic of childhood development and the influence on adulthood. The essay is bringing this into the general conversation about that issue, right? Okay? Now, in my view, right? Now, the author here is not using one of those specific templates that we study in They Say, I Say, in that textbook by Graf and Berkenstein. No. Nope, she's not doing that. But she is still doing what the templates are designed to do. She is bringing in the I say, and she is contrasting it, I say versus they say. Meaning that when the author comes to what she has to say on the subject, she is still keeping in mind what they have to say on the subject. Many studies say one thing, I say something else. In my view, there are factors besides the ones discovered in the research. Individual choice is one such factor. Everyone has the freedom to make choices, and what the individual chooses can influence the kind of adult one becomes. Okay, so we're still talking about influences in childhood. We're still talking about how those influences determine the kind of adult one is, but here we're adding another idea. Okay, individual choice, not just parents, not just peers, right? Not just the things that Chen talks about. He talks about influences on babies in pregnancy and so on and so forth, okay? Now we're moving beyond that to what I have to say. Now, the main point. This is one of those essays where the main point is at the end. Basic composition will probably tell you, state your thesis in the introduction, and you can certainly do that. An introduction must make it clear to the reader what the topic of the essay is, but it does not have to state the thesis. There does have to be a main point. It does have to be clear somehow throughout the essay. In this particular case, the writer is stating her main point at the end. Although parents, environment, peers can influence a child's development, the individual can choose to go beyond that influence. Thesis. Got it. Right there. Clearly stated. And then we have a little bit of development. Allowing oneself to recognize and take advantage of opportunities is the key to transforming a negative start in life into a positive end as an adult. Okay. What have we done here? We've still kept the they say and the I say in mind at the end. They and I. Okay? Now we've already seen the connection between they and these influenced parents, environment, and peers because we've seen what Chen and Harris have to say about those influences. All right? So although we don't mention the names of they here, this is still a reference. Okay, so they are referenced at the end. And we end with the I statement. I want to conclude this little talk here, folks, with a look at the list of references. Very important. You're going to need to get this right in your own documented essay and then also in your research paper. First of all, your list of references is always headed references, not, don't make this mistake, not bibliography. Okay, it is not a bibliography, it is a list of references. Secondly, the references are in alphabetical order by A-L-P-H-A, B-E-T-I-C-A-L, alphabetical order by last name. Okay, got that? And so Chen comes before Harris. and Chen and Harris are the names of the authors here. Okay? We include initials, we include date, we include title, we include publication information. You know already about this because you've done it. You've done it in Workshop 4. You did it in Workshop 5. You've practiced this. You also did it in your annotated bibliography. So you should know how to do this by now. First thing, author. Second thing, date. Third thing, title. Fourth thing, publication information. Note that the title is italicized because it's the name of a book. Book title, italics. Okay? If it's not a book title, if it's the title of an article, it's not in italics. And remember, only the first word of the title is capitalized. So the, and then also the first word of a subtitle is capitalized. Finally, format. Note that it is double-spaced. There is no extra space between the items. We've got Chen here, we've got Harris here. There's no extra space between them. Everything is double-spaced. What separates Chen and Harris is hanging indentation. Okay? Hanging indent. The first line is at the margin. Everything else is indented. That's what hanging indentation is. Folks, that's what a documented essay looks like. That's how a documented essay brings in the they say so that the essay is entering the conversation about the topic. I hope that gives you some idea of what this particular assignment is asking for, and you can always ask questions of me, and you should do so in one of the workshops. So if you've got questions, ask in the workshop. If the workshop is closed, ask me in a journal message. And thanks for listening.